Hello there, my name is HarmNone, and today we're going to be going over 10 of the most defensive-oriented vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. So these vehicles are going to have either a combination of heavy armor or a very exclusive defensive-oriented capability that they have. Some are going to be very niche, some are not. Anyways, let's get into it, starting off with number 10. Alright guys, at number 10 we have the Insurgent Pickup Custom. Now the Insurgent Pickup Custom is on this list because it has several very good defensive features. This thing definitely deserves to be on this list. So starting off, once you equip the heavy armor, the gunner is very well protected. They get almost a fully encased shield around them when they are operating the turret, which makes it a lot harder to shoot them. Also with the heavy armor, you get smaller hitboxes for the windows. Now, yes, the bullets will go through here, but if the opponent cannot actually see your player model, it's going to be very hard for them to actually hit you. Heavy armor is definitely a must on the Insurgent Pickup Custom. Once you unlock it, it is totally worth it to have. Now beyond that, the Insurgent Pickup Custom can take more than 20 oppressor rockets, which means if you're getting chased by an oppressor, you will be able to survive every single rocket they shoot at you, so long as they are not cheating. If they want to kill you, they're going to have to do a combination of a couple things. They're either going to have to use their full oppressor on you, hit every single rocket, then get off it, which we all know oppressor griefers, they're not going to do that. They're going to have to go despawn their oppressor and respawn it in to actually finish you off, because it's going to take another 7 or so missiles to actually kill you. So the Insurgent is very well protected against the oppressor. It's also very good at standing up against the RPG or the homing launcher. This thing can tank quite a few shots, I believe somewhere around 9 to 11, which is very good. I personally use the Insurgent Pickup Custom a lot, and I almost never die in this thing. Honestly, the most likely thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to actually get shot out of it before this thing is actually going to blow up. Anyway guys, that's it for number 10. Let's move right into number 9. Alright guys, and at number 9 we have the Avenger. Now like I said, this list is going to be made up of a couple different vehicles with a couple of different niches. Now, the Avenger is the most heavily armored aircraft in the entire game, so I felt like it was pretty deserving of being on here. Not only that, but it is also one of the fastest aircraft in the entire game as well. So the Avenger could probably be considered to be a pretty defensive oriented vehicle. Obviously this thing does have cannons which can be operated by other people that are inside of your Avenger, which is always nice, and you could definitely use those to defend yourself. However, the main feature that I'm thinking about when I'm talking about this thing is for when you are playing solo. Now like I said, this thing is very fast and it is very armored. So armored in fact that you can actually crash this thing directly into the ground and it will not blow up. You will just be able to take off again, as you guys can see right here. What other aircraft in this game can you really do that in? A couple of the jets that were added with the airplane DLC, sure, you can do that with them. Couple helicopters, but none of them are going to stand up to the punishment that the Avenger can. This thing is crazy. It's so armored, it's so good. Not only that, but it is also very fast, like I mentioned. So if you want to get away from somebody in a hurry, the Avenger is pretty much the best vehicle in the entire game to actually do that in. In combination with the armor, you are pretty much going to be unkillable in this thing if you want to be. You can simply run away from anyone and they will really not be able to catch you. The Avenger has a lot of perks also. Of course, you can upgrade your Mark II weapons inside of it. You can also upgrade vehicles inside of it. The Avenger, it's a really good vehicle. I'd recommend picking it up for sure. Anyways, let's move on to number 8. Alright guys, at number 8 we have the Annihilator Stealth. This thing has the ability to disable its weapons and in turn become completely invisible on the map. Now the Annihilator Stealth is kind of regarded as a pretty useless vehicle in the game. However, I do feel like it is a pretty defensive oriented vehicle, so I do feel like it is deserving of being on this list. As you guys can see right now, the machine guns are deployed, which means I can fire them, which means I am not in stealth mode. However, if I press H, the machine guns will fold in, and now we are in stealth mode and we are completely concealed from the minimap. It actually makes this thing almost worth owning. It's kind of hard to say. A lot of people hate this thing. I personally don't mind it that much. However, there are a couple of vehicles that are a little bit better than this thing. Anyway guys, let's move on to number 7. Alright guys, at number 7 we have the Vigilante / the Toreador. Now clearly this is the Vigilante in front of me here. The Toreador is also going to be featured here. Both the Vigilante and the Toreador are primarily land vehicles that have really good missiles, and they both have a rocket booster on the back of them, which allows them to go flying forward in a very fast manner. Technically speaking, I do believe that the Vigilante and the Toreador are the fastest land vehicles in the game because of their rocket boost, which is a very, very cool feature. Now, both of these vehicles also have lock-on missiles that are exceptionally good. Now, the Vigilante does have less armor than the Toreador, however, that does not really mean that it is a much worse vehicle. The Toreador can take about 6 rockets, I believe, from an Oppressor Mark II, whereas this thing can only take about 3, I believe. So the Toreador is a little bit better at defending itself from the Mark II, however, this thing is just, well, let's be honest, it's just a little bit cooler. Now, the Toreador has some cool features of its own. The Toreador has machine guns on it, very similar to the Vigilante, and it also has lock-on missiles. However, the Toreador does have one feature that sticks out over the Vigilante. It is submersible. Now this is very, very cool. You can boost underneath the water as well, just so you guys are aware, but this thing is quite defensive oriented because I feel like if you really need to get away from somebody, going underneath the water is one of the best ways to get away from them. Is it inconvenient slightly? Yeah, I would say so, but the Toreador does have that ability, which I think is definitely worth mentioning. So there you have it, guys. That's it for number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Alright guys, next up at number 6 we have the Night Shark. Now the Night Shark is one of the best vehicles in the game. This is the vehicle that I recommend that every new player buys as soon as possible in Grand Theft Auto Online. It is the fastest vehicle in the game with the most armor. The Night Shark is awesome. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you guys. When you have the window plating on this thing, it makes it very, very challenging to actually be shot while inside of this vehicle. Now yes, it is still possible to be shot while driving this thing or while inside it. However, it is quite challenging. If you are a good driver with the Night Shark, you can pretty much completely avoid this by just driving erratically. This thing, like I said, is very, very quick, which makes it very hard for other people to shoot you. Not only that, but the Night Shark is also equipped with machine guns, which, as you guys can see, can, sort of take care of business if you need to. Now, with the window plating on, the one downside to the Night Shark is that you cannot shoot your own weapons while inside of it. However, it does have the machine guns, so, you can still defend yourself from ground targets at least. You're gonna have a pretty hard time shooting at oppressors with the window plating on. However, the nice thing is you can take the window plating off very, very easily. And when you have the window plating off, you can fully shoot, you can throw sticky bombs out of this thing, you can do whatever you need to do. However, I felt like I should show off the armored window version for this list because this is for defensive vehicles and the windows are definitely a more defensive thing than being able to throw sticky bombs out of the vehicle. Now, the Night Shark is also very armored, like I mentioned earlier. This thing can take 27 rockets from an Oppressor Mark II, which is very, very good. That means the Oppressor Griefer, or anyone using an Oppressor, is going to have to despawn their Oppressor and respawn it to actually kill you. The Night Shark is a fantastic vehicle. There's really no downside to this thing at all. I would recommend picking this thing up if you guys have the money for it. It is a must-have. Anyway, guys, let's move on to number 5. Alright, guys, the next vehicle we have is the Bravado Halftrack. This thing is a very capable defensive vehicle. The coolest thing about the Halftrack is that when you are inside the cab of this thing, you are invincible until the vehicle blows up. The strange thing with this thing is that even though there is a gap there and there's clearly a window, that is actually completely bulletproof. As you guys can see, the bullets are rebounding off of what is effectively nothing. Now, on the side windows, it is also very, very hard to be killed through them. So basically, the only way that somebody can kill you when you're inside of this thing is by blowing the entire vehicle up. And we're in luck because similar to the Night Shark, this thing can take 27 rockets from an Oppressor Mark II, and I believe about 11 to 13 RPG shots, which is very, very good. Not to mention that if you do have a gunner on this thing, you can defend yourself quite effectively. The flak cannon on the top of the Halftrack is a very, very good weapon system. You can take out a Hydra in about 3 seconds of constant shooting with this thing, which is, not bad. Not bad at all, really. Now, within the Halftrack, you can also drop proximity mines behind you. So if you're getting tailed and you really want somebody to go away, you can keep dropping proximity proximity mines behind you, and eventually they will hit them and hopefully blow up. The cool thing about the proximity mine dropper is you have unlimited proximity mines. You can only have 5 down at a time. However, you can place as many as you want throughout the course of driving this thing. The other good thing about the Halftrack is it is a very versatile off-road vehicle. You can pretty much take this thing anywhere that you want to take it, and it will not give you any issues whatsoever. The only problem that the Halftrack has is that it is a very slow vehicle. I think it is actually the slowest vehicle on this entire list. Anyway guys, the Halftrack is a great vehicle. I would highly recommend picking this thing up if you guys don't have one already. Definitely check into it and see if it is right for you. Anyways, let's move on to number 4. Now guys, the next vehicle that we are going to be talking about is the Kasaka. And you guys may be saying, how is the Kasaka a defensive vehicle? Well, like I said, we are going to be doing some pretty diverse vehicles on this list, and I figured we needed something for the water. Now, the Kasaka is pretty well armored. It is pretty hard to kill this thing. Not only that, but the Kasaka also has some pretty cool abilities. Of course, the Kasaka is a drivable vehicle in this game, and with the ability to drive this thing, you also get the ability to go underwater with this thing. Now, when the Kasaka is fully submerged underneath the water, you have to be down a couple of meters, but once you get there, this thing actually goes off the radar. So it is pretty much a stealth boat. Nobody will know exactly where you are. Nobody can tell what you're doing. Now, if I hop out of the driver's seat of this thing, it actually has another really cool feature, which I think is a very good defensive feature. You can actually fast travel with this thing. So say somebody's coming for you, you can quickly dive underneath the surface of the water and then go into the teleport screen and say, let's go to Vespucci Beach. Now your attackers will still be where they last saw you, thinking that you are just hiding underneath the water. And by the time they realize that you are not there, they will have realized that you have probably switched sides of the map. As you guys can see, we are down at Vespucci Beach right now, and we were just up here before. So obviously you can get around the map very quickly with this thing, which is very useful. Not to mention, the Kasaka also has some very good defensive oriented weaponry. The periscope cannon is extremely good for warding off oppressor Mark IIs. It does have a lock-on feature, and the missiles that it shoots are pretty darn good. They're not the best, they're not as good as the oppressor Mark II's missiles, but they can eventually catch up to a Mark II as long as you keep spam firing them. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for the Kasaka. It is a very good defensive vehicle. It's obviously a very useful vehicle. You can also launch KO Perico from the Kasaka, and of course you can have the Sparrow inside of the Kasaka as well. Overall, the Kasaka is a great vehicle, and I would highly recommend that you guys all pick this thing up if you don't have it already. Alright guys, next up we have the Patriot Mill spec, or any vehicle that came out with the contract DLC that has the armor option, and not only that, but also has the missile lock-on jammer option. These vehicles that came out with the contract DLC have been a huge request from the community for a very long time. The Patriot Mill spec, the Bravado Buffalo STX, the ENUS Deity, the ENUS Jubilee, and the Dubachi Champion, as well as the new Granger that is coming out very soon, all will have armor options and the missile lock-on jammer option. Now the missile lock-on jammer does exactly what it says. It stops anyone from locking onto you with any lock-on missile system in the entire game, which is very good, especially for being protected from oppressor Mark IIs. This means that anytime a Mark II user wants to try to kill you when you are inside any of these vehicles, they're gonna have to free fire all of their rockets. And if you know anything about oppressor griefers, they can't aim. They are worthless at aiming. Absolutely horrible. Now, even if they do manage to hit you with some free aim missiles from their oppressor, this thing can take a substantial amount of missiles, way more than the oppressor griefer is actually going to be able to hit on you. And of course, you can just take this thing back to the agency garage and just repair it instantly. All of the contract DLC vehicles that have the missile lock-on jammer are extremely defensive oriented. However, they also have some offensive capabilities as well, like the machine guns that you can see on the front of the Patriot Mill spec here. Not only that, but these vehicles also all come equipped with an oil slick dropper. So if somebody's chasing you and they hit your oil slick, they will lose control of their vehicle for about 5 seconds. Now, of course, you have infinite amounts amounts of these, so you can completely just spam them and vehicles will still just keep hitting them and lose control. These vehicles are absolutely awesome. They are a must own in Grand Theft Auto Online in 2022. Everybody should be buying these things if you have the money to. They are amazing vehicles. Let's move on to number 2. Alright guys, at number 2 we have the Akula. This thing is very similar to the Annihilator Stealth, except it's, well, good. This thing can seat 4 players and it has off the radar mode while you are flying it. You can equip this thing with a missile barrage, which will shoot 4 missiles in rapid succession, or you can equip it with homing missiles, both of which are very good. You can also equip the gunner of this vehicle with a dual minigun turret that they will have control of. Now the Akula, like I mentioned, has stealth mode, so the pilot of this thing has access to machine guns when it is not in stealth mode, very similar to the Annihilator Stealth, and when it is in stealth mode you will lose access to the machine guns. So when those are put away, this thing is completely off of the radar. Again, very, very useful. Now the good thing about the Akula is it is faster than the Annihilator Stealth. It also gains altitude very, very quickly, and it is one of the fastest helicopters in the entire game, I do believe. Now like I mentioned, this thing is a 4-seater, so you can be riding around with 3 of your friends while you are actually flying it, which is a very, very nice perk. Usually with these attack style helicopters it is a 2-seater maximum, but this thing is a 4-seater. The Akula is the best helicopter in Grand Theft Auto Online. I'm not even going to try to act like there's a helicopter that is nearly as good as this thing. It is actually the GOAT of helicopters in this game. Now I also didn't mention that this thing actually has pretty decent armor. You can actually take 2 RPGs with this thing, 3 to actually blow the vehicle up. So it is quite well armored, especially for a helicopter. I would recommend picking this thing up as soon as you possibly can. It can do so much for you, and it absolutely will. Anyway guys, that's it for number 2. Let's move on to the best defensive vehicle in the entire game. Alright guys, and at number 1 for the most defensive vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online, we have the MOC Cab. Now I'm sure a lot of you guys saw this one coming, and it's for good reason. The MOC Cab can take 67 Oppressor Mark II missiles before it will blow up. Now that is pretty insane. It can also take an absolute ton of RPG shots and anything else that people are going to throw at it. It's also quite quick. It's definitely not as slow as you would expect a semi-truck to be. Of course, the only problem with this thing is that you actually have to wait for it to spawn, and it will not spawn necessarily right beside you. It will spawn in a pretty randomized location. Although there's not many places where it will spawn, it is still a tiny bit of a pain to get there. But the trade-off is that you are effectively invincible until somebody has gone through 3 Oppressor Mark IIs and is on their 4th and have hit every single shot. So for surviving against the Oppressor, this thing is very good. It's even very good at surviving against a vehicle like the Hydra with the Hydra's autocannon, which is very impressive. That thing absolutely shreds. So you know if a vehicle is going to survive against the Hydra's autocannon, it is a pretty tanky vehicle. Now I'm not saying this thing is going to survive forever against the Hydra's autocannon, because the Hydra's autocannon knows no limits. However, it will do pretty darn good. And of course, when you're driving this thing, you don't actually have to drive around with the trailer on it the whole time. You can of course drop the trailer, which will make the truck itself a lot faster. Now the only problem with the truck is that you can still of course be shot out of this thing, which does kind of suck. However, there had to be a trade-off with this vehicle, obviously, because you get a lot of benefits with this. Anyway guys, if you want the ultimate protection in a land vehicle, I would say buying the MOC Cab is going to be your best bet for achieving that. If there is an oppressor that is bothering you, or some sort of vehicle with lock-on missiles, the MOC Cab is going to be your best bet to defend yourself against them. This thing is absolutely goated. I would highly recommend picking up an MOC. The rest of the MOC is not very useful. However, you can of course upgrade your Mark II weapons within the MOC, which is kind of nice. And you can also upgrade vehicles like the Insurgent Pickup Custom that we saw earlier in this list. Anyway guys, that's it for the top 10 most defensive oriented vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Let me know if you guys think I missed any in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, it always helps me out. Dislike if you didn't. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.